Well, welcome everyone to the Culture First Global Chapters, How to Compassionate Even When You Don't Want to. My name is Jessie Jacob. I'm the Senior Community Manager at Culture Amp, running our Global Chapters program. Pretty cool milestone. We just hit over 100 global chapters recently. So we're celebrating here at the Culture First community. So thank you all for joining us on our mission to create a better world of work. Couldn't do it without you all. Good things happen when the community comes together. So today we're going to have a highly interactive, engaging session for the next hour together. We're going to talk about what is compassion, what gets in the way of us being compassionate, and how to kind of strengthen that muscle. Because I don't know about you all, but sometimes it can be really hard to extend compassion to other folks, especially when you don't have the same beliefs and ideologies and all of that good stuff. So we are joined today with Sara Schairer, and she's the founder and executive director of Compassionate, a nonprofit and global social movement. They're on a mission to inspire daily compassionate actions and attitudes. She has tons of facilitation experience with compassion cultivation training, which is a course developed at Stanford. She's an adjunct professor at San Diego State University. She's an author of A Case for Compassion, What Happens When We Prioritize People and the Planet, and also contributing author of a book called The Neuroscience of Learning and Development, Enhancing Creativity, Compassion, Critical Thinking, and Peace in Education. Holy smokes, I could go on and on about her amazing background and resume. We're just grateful to be joined by her today and leading us through our session. This would not be a Culture First gathering if I didn't explain, like, who are we and what is it you say you do here with community. So the Culture First community is where at Culture Amp, it's sponsored by Culture Amp. It's where people, leaders, and change agents come together to be inspired by their peers, to ideate and share best practices about how do we create a better world of work. There's lots of areas of where community comes together. Obviously, this is our chapters program, but we have our big flagship experience called Culture First Global. We have a Slack community with over 25,000 people in there. So if you want to get in there and share ideas and resources, that's available for you. We have a podcast. We have a weekly newsletter called The Geekly. We have field marketing events. There's all sorts of ways to get involved with community members outside of just our chapters program. But who are we? We're a group of people around the world united in the shared belief that a better world of work is possible. And by golly, we're willing to do something about it. We are all about bringing folks together who are passionate about unlocking humanity at work through inspiring experiences and purposeful connections. We have 5 core principles that hold all of our global chapters together. This is the glue. This is how we agree to show up with one another at our gatherings. So we're all about fostering belonging and acceptance, creating spaces where people feel like they can come and feel seen, heard, valued, and appreciated for just being themselves. The second core principle is being willing to reflect and grow. If we want to transform the way that we work, that goes to our organizations. And then that ultimately starts with us being the change we want to see in the world. The third core principle is having the courage to be vulnerable, getting in this cycle of vulnerability that if I take off some of the masks that I'm wearing at work around, I have this title and I work at this company, but underneath all of it all, I'm just like a human being going through this experience. And it gives other people permission to kind of take off their masks so we can create more trust and psychological safety with one another. The fourth core principle is putting learning into action. We don't want you to just consume information today. We want this to be a place where you feel like you can commit to taking action, to doing something, and actually transforming how we work together. And then this last principle is connection inside, business outside. So it's just a fun way of saying that in the context of this gathering, we're here to connect as human beings first. If that leads to doing business later, cool, but that's not the primary purpose. Networking and passing business cards isn't the primary purpose. We're here to learn together, grow together, and we're on a mission to create a better world of work. So with that, I will hand it off to Sara. Thank you so much for collaborating with us, and over to you, my friend. I'm so excited to learn from you.
Well, thank you. And I do want to just shout out the Culture First community because you might see on the screen someone named Hanson Hunt. Hanson and I met at a Culture First in-person gathering in October of last year in San Diego. Gary Ware was hosting it, and he's now my boyfriend, and he's sitting right over there. So thank you, Culture First, for bringing me this wonderful man.
Culture first love. Oh, that makes me so
Yeah, pretty cool. So I hope you don't have any expectations about that for today, but who knows what may happen? You just never know. You never know what's going to happen at a Culture First event. I certainly had no idea. All right. But I do want to keep expectations manageable. So let's talk about a little bit about what we're in store for. We only have 52 minutes. We're going to do a lot in the next 52 minutes. So it's going to be pretty fast paced. And please, if you do have questions, feel free to type them into chat, and Jessie will help me with those. But here's what we're going to be covering today: how to compassionate even when you don't want to. We're going to start with just a very, very brief introduction to my organization, and then we're going to talk about what compassion is, because we can't have a discussion around compassion if we're not all on the same page about its definition. Then we're going to talk about what gets in the way of compassion. I don't know about you, but I have a hard time being compassionate all the time. And there are some things that I can work on to remove those obstacles to compassion. And then lastly, we're going to do an exercise together to help us cultivate compassion for everyone, even those folks who challenge us. Before we begin, there are a few things I like to bring up. First, I'd like to do a land acknowledgement. I'm in San Diego, California, which is the native land of Kumeyaay tribe. And if you are curious about what native land you're sitting upon, I encourage you to go to nativeland.ca and figure that out for yourself. Secondly, when we talk about compassion, we are going to be vulnerable with each other. And sometimes you may not feel like doing that. And I do want to make sure you have permission to opt out of anything that we do here. A big part of compassion is self-compassion. So first and foremost, you need to take care of yourself. So if you'd rather just observe the exercise and not participate, totally okay. I'm not going to be offended. Also, if you saw in the email, or maybe even in the registration page, if you stick around to the end, I'll be choosing a few folks to send my new book to. I meant to have a copy of it on me, but it's back there somewhere. My new book and a pair of compassionate wristbands, which you can learn about on the webpage, but you flip it every time you compassion it. So this is a tangible reminder. It's really hard to be a jerk when you're wearing this wristband. It's possible, I've done it for sure, but it's a lot harder to be a jerk when you're wearing a compassionate wristband. So hopefully hopefully you want to stick around because you love this so much, but maybe that's additional incentive for you. So let's do a very quick little icebreaker so that we're warmed up here in this room. You all have already been sitting there for 11 minutes and haven't participated really much at all. So we're going to do a quick little game here. And the way it's going to work is we're going to all turn off our cameras, which is usually not what facilitators want, but I'm going to invite you to turn your camera off, and then I will say a statement, and if it's true for you, turn your camera on. Does that make sense? So let's all turn our cameras off. So you can go to stop video. And the first question I'm going to ask, is this true for you? I'm drinking coffee right now. If you happen to have your mug on you. Oh, look at all these coffee drinkers here. Fueling with caffeine. Great. Okay. Turning off the camera. Second question is, I'm wearing comfy, cozy pants. Definitely true for me. Yeah, I hope everybody's comfortable right now. Yeah, business on top, party below. Great. All right, let's turn off the camera. The next one is, I work remotely. So are you working from home these days? Yep. A lot of us are. Very cool. We're going to stop the video again. Final question. I have felt frustrated with someone in the past month or so. Oh, look at that common humanity right there. You're not alone. Yes, even the compassion teacher feels frustrated with people, quite frequently, in fact. So cool. Thank you for that. That's really a fun game. And Gary, thanks for your inspiration with that as well. Great. Let me get back to sharing my screen. So very little bit about me and my organization. Many years ago, I was going through a hard time. I heard Wayne Dyer talking to Ellen on her show about compassion. He said it was the most important lesson to teach our children, that if we would teach our children compassion, we could solve the social problems of the planet. And I could not stop thinking about it. And that very evening, the word compassionate in my mind turned into two words, compassionate. And I thought, that's pretty cool. Compassion is normally a noun. This makes compassion a verb, right? An action. It's like just do it or Google it. And I thought that'd be a pretty cool bumper sticker. And so trademarked bumper stickers, a few years went by, and I began practicing compassionate in my life. And I realized, wow, when I compassionate, things go a lot better. Life is much sweeter when I'm practicing compassion for myself and others. And so I thought I needed to get this phrase out there. So I had stickers and then t-shirts and then the wristbands, and then became a Stanford certified compassion teacher over 10 years ago. And I now teach compassion. That's my career. I've been teaching compassion around the world to folks of all walks of life, from incarcerated individuals at a maximum security prison to leaders at Google and everyone in between. Last night, I was teaching a compassionate leadership course to teenagers at a local police department who are hosting a leadership camp. So compassion is my passion, and it really is an honor for me to be sharing this work with you all. So thank you for being here. All right, we're gonna kick things off, or we're gonna have a discussion around compassion, but first I would like to have us feel what compassion feels like before we dive into language around it. Let's feel it first. So I'm going to guide you through a brief visualization exercise. And during this exercise, I'm going to invite you to think about a time that you experienced compassion. Okay, so maybe a time when you were suffering and somebody helped you, or perhaps you noticed somebody struggling and you helped them. Or maybe you were watching compassion happening in front of your eyes. So I'm going to guide you through this visualization and help you put yourself in that moment and then notice what that feels like. All right. So if you'd like to find a grounded position, I like to put both feet on the ground and sit up tall. And if it's comfortable for you, you can close your eyes, or you can just cast the gaze down and unfocus the eyes. And let's take a couple breaths just to settle into the moment. So exhaling everything out. Inhaling through the nose, filling your lungs all the way up. And then a long, slow exhale out of the mouth. Again, inhaling through the nose. And exhaling. And again, inhaling. And exhaling. And now just breathing in and out of the nostrils. And from this grounded place, I invite you to think about a time you experienced compassion. So maybe you were struggling in some way and someone came over and helped you, supported you, was there for you. Or maybe you offered compassion to someone. You noticed they needed help. Or maybe you just saw compassion happening in front of your eyes. See if you can pick a specific scenario and put yourself back in that moment with as much detail as you can. Noticing where you are and who was there, what was happening, what you see and hear. And now tuning into what you feel. What sensations in the body do you notice as you experience compassion? Asking yourself, what does compassion feel like? And where do I feel it? What does compassion feel like? And where do I feel it? And then if it's helpful to anchor that feeling by placing a hand over the heart or chest area and taking one more breath in and breath out. And now you can open your eyes. And I'd love for you to share in the chat, what did compassion feel like? Where did you feel it? Soft in my back, thank you. Safe, supported, warm, soft in my heart. Layla felt a giant hug. Paula said a release in my muscles. Compassion felt like awe. A healing balm on my heart, felt it in my face, like my face muscles wanted to smile. Okay, this is all great. So can we agree compassion feels pretty good? Maybe a thumbs up if that, yeah. I'm here today and I do this work because I think we need some more of that in our world and in our workplaces. Okay, that feeling is powerful. Cozy in my mind, that is about the cutest description of compassion I've ever heard. Thank you, Sophia. Great. So if that's what compassion feels like, what is compassion? Any ideas? Robin, you can't answer. Robin and I went through teacher training together, so she's not allowed. But what is compassion? Maybe if you want to type into the chat some synonyms or a definition that you might have for compassion. A big hug, I love it. Empathy in action, great, Paula. Any other? Assume positive intent always. It's beautiful, Bev, thank you. Empathy with work boots on, love that. Caring with no strings. Empathy plus action, really good. Kindness as a superpower. Caring and a willingness to help. Great. You guys, you don't even need this workshop. You already know what compassion is. So actually, little known fact, at its Latin roots, compassion means to suffer with. So when we are compassionate, we are willing to be present with suffering. We're not running away from suffering. We're not pretending we don't see the suffering, which we're really good at doing that in our culture, right? I'm just going to walk right by that and I'm going to pretend I don't see that. Another important part of compassion is you can be present with suffering and not get overwhelmed. It takes skill in order to do that. That's why self-compassion is a big part of compassion. Unfortunately, we don't have time to dive into that. That's a whole other workshop. But compassion means you are willing to be present with suffering. So that leads me to, well, what the heck is suffering? In our society, we think of suffering as this big, huge thing, like it's obvious, I've got blood gushing out all over. Clearly that person is suffering. Well, in my world, in the compassion world, when we're talking about suffering, we're using an expansive definition of that word. My teachers taught me that suffering is whenever I want something I can't get, or I get something I don't want. Anybody ever feel that way? Do you wish you had something? Or do you wish you didn't have something else? That's suffering. So raise your hand if you've ever suffered before by that definition. Okay. So we are all humans here, just making sure. It looks like we've got a bunch of humans in the room. The good thing and the bad thing about that is everybody suffers, right? And most of us are suffering most of the time, unless we're just totally content. The reason why that's good for compassion is that means every single person you encounter is someone you can offer your compassion to. Yes, even those people who challenge us. Because you don't know what's going on, but I can guarantee you they're worried about something. Okay, we all have that in common. So let's define compassion. I said that it's at its Latin roots, it means to suffer with. Well, Stanford defines it as a cascade of events that begins with noticing suffering, which just makes sense, right? You can't be compassionate if you don't even know somebody's suffering. Guess what gets in the way of us noticing suffering these days? Any thoughts about something we pretty much all have with us all the time that keeps us from even noticing suffering? Ego, apathy. I'm thinking of even something physical. Your phone. Yep. Oh, that distraction device. Boy, when the mind is wandering or when we're pulled away, we're not noticing what's going on, right? And those phones sure do a great job of keeping our heads down and not noticing what's going on around us. Also keeps us from not knowing if we ourselves are suffering. So cultivating mindfulness and awareness is a big part of compassion because you have to be present to notice suffering. All right, so you see suffering, and then after that, you feel empathy. Oftentimes people think empathy and compassion are the same thing. They're not quite. This empathy you feel, it may happen automatically. You might feel the pain of another. You maybe have had that happen before where you see somebody suffering and you actually feel that physical pain. So let's say I've slammed the door on my toe and it rips off my big toenail and you saw you might actually feel that, right, in your own toe. We have these mirror neurons in our brains that help us connect to others and feel for them. Sometimes though we have to use our imaginations and say, I can imagine what that must feel like. Okay, so we see suffering, we connect to that suffering through empathy, and then we have this innate desire. We're born with this as humans. We have this desire to help. And look, those pigs have this desire to help too, right? We want to do something. And then with compassion, we have a willingness to take action. Now, what's important about this is the word willingness. Because we may not have the tools or the resources to do something in that moment. We may not have the wisdom to do the right thing in that moment. So humility is a big part of compassion, is recognizing, is there something I can do skillfully or not? I live in San Diego, and in my neighborhood, there are people experiencing homelessness all over. And I can't possibly help everyone. I want to. I have that desire. I have a willingness to do something. And my willingness is to support organizations that have the tools that can help them. Right? So compassion requires some wisdom to know, what can I do in this moment? And oftentimes, if you're talking about someone that you know, just being present with them is compassion, right? You don't need to fix it. Just be. And what's cool about compassion is the byproduct. You felt it with that visualization, right? That warm glow. Compassion feels good. It's giving us all these feel-good hormones, and it gives us energy. If you hear people talking about compassion fatigue, there's no such thing. Maybe it's empathy fatigue or something else, but if you're truly practicing compassion in the right way, you're not going to get tired from it, because again, you're taking care of your own needs as you're tending to another. All right, any questions about compassion? Oh, I see a good one. Are we hardwired to want to help? We are, Neil. We are. That's that innate desire to help that we have, and we're born this way. We have to help each other. We wouldn't survive if we didn't have that. In fact, Charles Darwin, we think of him as the survival of the fittest guy, right? Like, oh, if you're the strongest, you're gonna survive. He actually wrote a lot about compassion. He called it sympathy, but he recognized that we have to take care of each other in order to survive. Okay. Any other questions about compassion before we move on? I just gave you a lot of information in a short amount of time. Nope. All right, everybody's an expert in compassion now. Now we move on to the tricky part. What gets in the way of compassion? I would love to hear from you. What do you think are some things that get in the way of us being compassionate?
Fixed mindsets.
Fixed mindsets. Can you say more about that?
Yeah, like when we have like beliefs and we have really solid ways of looking at the world, and it's like very black or white ways of viewing the world.
Yep, that's a great one. I see ego, stereotypes, and judgment. Thank you, Jill. Being focused on self, feeling hurt, exhaustion, fatigue when it's inconvenient or uncomfortable. There's research that shows that if you're in a hurry, you're not inclined to be as compassionate. Our own baggage, anxiety, desire to control, but there's a lot, right? There's a lot that can get in our way. Even those of us that strive to have compassion for everyone, there's a lot keeping us from it. Needing it while also wanting to give it, this can be tiring. When I encounter racism in my heart, my heart shuts down. Perception over fact. Yeah, these are really good. Trauma. A lot of wisdom in this room. Why am I teaching this work? No, I'm just kidding. Great. Thank you for that, everyone. So what about who deserves compassion? Anybody want to unmute and answer that?
We all.
What was the question?
Who deserves compassion?
Oh, I see.
Ahmed, I think you hit the nail on the head. Can you repeat that?
Yeah, we all, everyone.
Yes, we all do. We all do. And we know that deep inside, right? Those of us that are here. But does everyone get your compassion all the time? No. For the reason why, many of those reasons that we just listed. Another thing that gets in the way of our ability to be compassionate all the time is the human brain. Unfortunately, this thing, man, it holds us back quite often. And our human brain likes to categorize and organize to make things easier for us, but unfortunately, it does that with other human beings. Okay, so we're going to do an exercise right now that illustrates what the human brain does. And this is based on research out of Princeton by a researcher named Susan Fiske. And she developed a theory called the stereotype content model. And her theory is that our brains automatically categorize people based on a couple things. And I'm going to share my screen. And again, this is just a theory, right? But I think it's helpful to understand. I think this is a helpful framework for understanding what's happening in the brain. She says our brains are categorizing people based on whether or not we perceive them as having high power or status or competence or low, and then whether or not we perceive them as warm or not. Okay? So the brain's automatically putting people in different places, and then we're responding to them, reacting with them based on where they fall in those quadrants. So let's as a group, I'm putting this in quotes because we're filling it out, but please note, we're not actually putting people in these buckets. This is just an exercise to help us illustrate what the human mind does. All right. Yeah, we're just using this to illustrate what can happen here. And I think also know that you don't have to talk about your own experience. You can sort of say the royal we, like kind of people normally put people here. All right, so let me explain. Let's think about who might be categorized as having high either power or competence or status, and we also feel warmth toward them. Either a specific person or like an occupation. And you can either unmute or type it into the chat. A nurse, great. Michelle Obama, great. The Dalai Lama, great. And of course, everybody recognize everyone's lenses are different, right? So everyone would have different people in this category. Inspirational leaders, cool. Educators, great. Doctors, yes. Oprah is always the first one people say, by the way. Well, 90% of the time. Obama. Okay, you got it. So now we're going to move over to the category on the left. So folks who have high power or status or competence, but we don't feel warmth toward them. And again, we can look at certain occupations or if you don't want to name anyone, politicians. Putin, Trump, depending on your viewpoints. Uh-oh, Jill. I'm glad you're in this class. My manager, some bosses, yep, police, some leaders, right? Okay, great. Now let's move down and look at the bottom right-hand quadrant. So folks who have low power, status, or competence, but we still view them with warmth. Children, yep. I would argue, well, we're going to say you can have either competence or status or power too. So I would put teachers above. But yeah, the elderly, yep, children and the elderly. Great. And then let's move over to the bottom left-hand quadrant. They have low power, low status, or low competence, and we don't feel warmth toward them. Maybe incarcerated individuals, perhaps some strangers, folks suffering from addiction. Yes, maybe people taking your Amazon packages. Great. Unhoused. Okay, so we've filled this out for the exercise. Now I want you to think about how do you respond when people in that upper right-hand corner suffer? So if you see inspirational leaders or nurses or the Dalai Lama, Oprah suffer, what's your reaction or response? And feel free to unmute, or you can type into the chat. You suffer with them. You immediately help. You have empathy. Exactly. You guys got it. This group gets our compassion, right? So that group gets compassion. What about the folks on the upper left-hand side? So these are Jill's manager, politicians, some police officers, maybe dictators. Neil, right, they deserve it. We might actually experience something called schadenfreude with that group. We might feel delight in their suffering, right? Ha, you deserve it. I'm glad you're suffering. All right, definitely no compassion. Yep, you got it, Melissa. So what about the bottom right-hand corner? how might we respond if we see, let's say, children or the elderly suffering? We feel sad, right, Sophia? Pity, great, Neil. You got it, Neil. This is a little bit different than the folks above, right? We still feel for them, but this is pity, which means I feel sorry for you. Compassion has us as the same. Pity means I'm here and you're there. Poor you. I feel pity for you. Okay, do you see the difference? Saviorship, great, Bev. Now, what about the bottom left-hand quadrant? People experiencing homelessness, incarcerated individuals, people suffering from addiction, sometimes hopeless, very sad. Yep. And again, this may not be you, right? This is just in general what some folks in society, powerless. Thank you, Bev. Yeah, the research indicates that with this group, sometimes what comes up is apathy. So nothing. In fact, Susan Fisk's research had folks looking at photographs of different people, and she was measuring what was happening in the brain at that time. And when people experiencing homelessness, a picture would come up, the same part of the brain would light up as if they were looking at garbage. So the brain is registering disgust and not even seeing the person as a human being. Okay. Now, I'm not saying everybody does that, but I'm just trying to illustrate that this is what the brain can do. Now, who has an easier time having compassion for folks, let's say, politicians and dictators and Wall Street CEOs? Who can have an easier time having compassion for that? Their mothers, their peers, exactly, their family members, other people in their roles. If that was your mother or father, you would have compassion, right? What about folks who are incarcerated or experiencing homelessness? People who have been there, who can relate to them. If you got to know them, right? If it's someone that was in your life or close to you. So what we're trying to do at Compassionate is have everyone, let's get rid of the squares. Everyone's in the same upper right-hand quadrant. Everyone gets our compassion automatically. That's the goal. But how do we do that? How do we do that? Well, you're in luck because we're about to do an exercise to help you do that. Yes, Sophia, you're going to stop labels, storytelling, beautiful. We are going to do an exercise called Eyes On. And the way this works is I'm going to be putting you into a breakout room with a partner. And each partner is going to have 2 minutes to share something that's creating worry for you, something you're struggling with. You can share whatever you feel comfortable sharing, right? And if you don't want to tell the story around it, you can just talk about how you're feeling. But what's important here is if you're the one listening, you don't say one word back, not a single thing. Now, how is the person going to know that you're listening if you're not saying anything back?
Nodding your
head. Yes, exactly. So you're showing them your nonverbal cues, you're listening. Now, let's say I haven't told you it's time to switch yet, because I'll be letting you know, time to switch. What if that person's done sharing their story in 1 minute and you have one other whole minute left? What do you think you're supposed to do? You get to sit in awkward silence. You have to sit in awkward silence. Yes. A part of compassion is learning how to be present when we're suffering. And boy, that can be awkward, right? So you're just going to sit there in awkward silence until I tell you it's time to switch. Then the second person will share. And then I'm going to bring you all back here. And I want to have you pin your partner on your screen. Now, does everybody know what I mean by that? You'll hover your cursor over the picture and click on the 3 dots. And you can hit the 4th option down says pin. And that's going to put that person's face on the screen in a big way. Everybody got it?
Real quick, what the question that we're talking about is which category?
I'm sorry. What's that, Jill?
I was just saying, so when we talk for 2 minutes, we're talking about that we're
You're gonna talk about something you're worried about.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Something that's creating some struggle or worry. Juji. Oh, you're muted.
When I press on the 3 dots, it just says chat. That's the only thing I get.
Okay. So if your pin isn't working, you'll just come back and look for your partner and make sure they're on your screen. Okay. They just won't have a big face on your screen. So then I'm going to guide you through an exercise that has you think about your partner. You're going to a couple times open your eyes and look at your partner and then close your eyes again. Okay. So Hanson is saying that the pin option is there now. So hopefully you have it. All right, so I'm going to put you in your breakout rooms. You're going to have 2 minutes per person. Each person shares. And let's say if you have the shorter hair, you're going to go first. Sorry for those of you with short hair. Let's see. Oh, let's get this. Okay. Just take a minute. I'm gonna try to get everybody. It's okay if you're in a room, Hanson. I think I need you in a room, actually. All right, here we go. Okay, please make sure you're muted. Okay, so please mute yourself and pin your partner if you can up on the screen. And now I invite you to close your eyes or cast your gaze down. And I just wanted to think about, was there some essence of your partner's story that you felt like you could connect to? You could say, yeah, I know what that feels like. And notice what that feels like. Now, very briefly, open your eyes to see your partner, looking at their eyes and their face. And now closing your eyes again. And notice how you feel. Consider what your partner might have felt like being truly heard and truly seen. And with your eyes still closed or your gaze down and your partner in mind, consider that just like you, this person has had a lot of ups and downs in their life. Just like you, this person wants to be happy. Just like you, this person knows what it's like to feel irritated and angry. This person knows what it's like to be disappointed or sad. Just like you, this person knows what it's like to love and to care for someone. And just like you, this person wants to be loved, to be appreciated, to be accepted. And now one more time, open your eyes to see your partner. And close your eyes again and notice what you feel. In your mind, consider repeating these phrases silently about your partner. Just like me, this person wishes to be happy. Just like me, this person wishes to be free from suffering. And see if you can notice that at this basic level, there is no difference between you two. In fact, consider that you could have partnered with anyone in this Zoom room, and it would have felt the same. In fact, we could have pulled strangers off of the street and plunked them in here, and it would have felt the same. Notice how that feels. And now I invite you to take a moment to bring yourself back to the present moment. So you can take a couple deep breaths and open your eyes. And I would normally put you back in your room so you could chat with your partner, but unfortunately, per usual, we're running out of time. So I would love to just hear from anyone who would like to volunteer and share with them, what was that experience like for you? And please don't share your partner's experience, just talk about your own experience. What was that like for you? Anybody willing to unmute and share?
Let's start. My
Go ahead,
partner was
go ahead, Ahmed. Yeah.
my partner was Kareen, and it was very difficult in the beginning to start telling something about you, what you're going through. But she made me so much comfortable in that particular given time that, I just opened up. And once I realized it was over for 2 minutes, it was a very different experience, when you're being listened without being judged, or kind of, you have no fear of kind of how other person will, maybe label you, maybe judge you. And, there are no perceived notion around what you're saying.
How beautiful. Yeah, it sounds like it felt freeing to have someone just listen. Huh. Thank you for that. Maybe one more observation about that practice.
I'll just say, I just felt like a strong sense of, I don't know, connection to humanity, like with a stranger, like, I don't know, almost like I've known you for a lot longer than I have, you know, so yeah, it just made me feel more human, I guess, you know.
Beautiful. I have decided that that is the exercise that will create world peace. All we need is 2 minutes per person, right? This is something we all share, this desire to want to be happy. And as I said, we're running out of time, so we can't dive into much more. I did want to ask you to take a moment and consider what stood out to you today that might inspire you to do things a little bit differently starting today or tomorrow. What are ways that you can make compassion more of a part of your life or work? And if you'd like to share that in the chat, it'd be cool to see that. What can you commit to flip your wristband every day, even if you don't have one? To do more 2-minute drills, put active listening without responding, sitting in silence, being more patient. Pause. Great, Paula, get out of my own head. I have more time, so I can give more time. That's right, Mary. Great, listen more, be in the moment. You might have recognized your tendencies as a listener during that exercise, right? Did you want to interrupt or say, oh, me too, or fix the problem? It's good to be aware of that. Stop the advice monster. Yes, Neil. Just like me, remember that on a regular basis. Candace, beautiful. Make an intentional effort to listen to others without judgment. Thank you for that. Well, I appreciate all of you for being here, and Culture First and Culture Amp for hosting. And we have a poll that Jessie's going to put up right now that I would love to hear from you. And we have 1 minute if there are any questions. But if you're opting in as you take this poll, you're opting into hearing from me. So just want to make sure that's clear. What would be the most helpful next step for you? And I could have spent many more hours with you all. I'm sorry it was such a short amount of time, but thank you for spending time with me and with all of us this morning, and for caring about compassion. It really matters.
Oh, thank you so much. Thanks for attending, everyone. If you want to stay on for a couple minutes, we're going to go over just a minute. We asked Gary Ware to be our observer from today, so would love to take a couple minutes to just hear from him. But if you want to stick around, awesome. If not, thank you so much for being here. We'll send out a follow-up email with materials and resources and stuff. And cheers to co-creating a better world of work, y'all. So we'll see you soon.
Thank you, everyone. It's really a pleasure. Really a pleasure. Thank you.
Gary, I want to hand it over to you. So for those of you that stuck around, we've been, the Culture First community has been playing with this idea of having a meeting observer. So we thought, Sarah and I thought it could be really cool to ask a community member to observe the experience we had today and kind of reflect back what they noticed. And so Gary was willing to be our observer. So Gary, please.
Yay.
Observe
Awesome.
today.
Yeah. So I observed I'll start with like the sort of the vibe. Of course I know Sarah, so it goes without saying that Sarah brings like such a warm, compassionate demeanor to everything, and everyone was so like just intently present on Sarah's every word, or at least that's was my observation. I had like all the boxes up and everyone was like nodding and whatnot. It was interesting as Sarah was asking these provocative questions, especially around, is it possible to have compassion for people that you don't necessarily agree with. It was interesting to see the various faces that folks were making of like, as they were being challenged to think about that. In such a short period of time, we were able to really drop in and connect with each other. And the the breakout session, that we had, yes, it was short, but I felt like it was incredibly powerful. And then it left me, and from the chat, it seemed like it left everyone else sort of thinking of like, ooh, how can I sort of take this and in true culture first fashion, bring this action into the world. So yeah, I thought it was an awesome session.
Thank you. Thanks, Gary.
Oh, thanks, Gary. That was awesome. I'm so glad we did that.
Yay.
Well, thank you all. I'd love to stay connected with many of you. I dropped my link in the chat to connect on LinkedIn. But this has been a treat. Sara, thank you so much for everything. It was wonderful. I have so many aha moments that I'm like, we could spend a whole nother 30 minutes recapping all of that. So
I know.
awesome.
Yeah. Thank you. I regret that the time was so short.
All good.
We could have gone a lot deeper, but thanks to everybody for letting me get deep quickly, and now we're done. So hopefully you can reach out to me if you have any questions or if there's anything I can do to help. And I'll be following up with those of you who took the poll. So thank you for that.
Awesome. All right,
Okay.
everyone. Have a great rest of your week.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Take care.